The Forgotten Hand. The research station floated in silence above a dying star. The crew called it Outpost 9. It was not a place of glory. It was a place where forgotten projects were stored. Deep inside the cargo bay, scientists had pulled something strange from a ruined alien ship. It was only a hand, pale and metallic at the edges, yet soft with living tissue. The hand was frozen in time. Most of the crew did not believe it was still alive, but scanners showed faint pulses like a weak heartbeat. The discovery was locked away in a clear chamber, guarded by strict rules. Weeks turned into months, and still the hand glowed faintly. The scientists argued endlessly. Some said it was only a remnant, a trick of unknown alien biology. Others whispered it was a seed, waiting for the right conditions to grow again. Outside the labs, life went on. Cleaners scrubbed the floors. Engineers patched leaking pipes. Soldiers patrolled the metal halls. Among them was a human janitor named Tom. Tom was no scientist, no soldier. He was a quiet man who pushed his cart through endless corridors, mopping away the dust of machines. He had heard rumors about the hand. Everyone had. But to him it was just another locked door on the station. And until one night when alarms rang through the air. Inside the laboratory the hand moved. It was small at first, a twitch of a finger like a shadow breaking the silence. The scientists gasped. Rushing to their controls, the scanners lit up, signals flooding the screens. The hand began to glow brighter. Tendrils of light spread through the chamber, weaving patterns in the air. The scientists had no control. Their machines only recorded as the hand built itself. Piece by piece, a wrist formed, then an arm, then a shoulder. Flesh and bone and something beyond human science shaped itself. The chamber shook with energy. Security was called. Soldiers lined the halls, weapons raised. No one knew what was being born in the glass chamber. Hours passed, and when the light faded, the figure of a young alien girl lay inside, breathing softly. Her skin glowed faintly. Her eyes still closed, she looked fragile, yet filled with silent power. The scientists argued again. Some said to sedate her. Others said to call the council. The soldiers wanted to point their weapons. But the commander gave strict orders. Wait, watch, do not act until she wakes. So they waited, the room heavy with fear. When her eyes opened, the first thing she saw was not the commander, not the scientists, but the janitor. Tom had been mopping outside the hall when the glass walls slid open by mistake. The alarms confused the doors, and he stood there, his mop dripping water on the floor. The alien girl blinked, her glowing eyes focusing on him. Everyone froze, soldiers gripping their weapons, but she did not look at them. She looked only at the man with the mop. She lifted her fragile hand, the same hand that had once been alone in the chamber, and reached toward him. Tom did not move at first, his heart pounding. He was only a janitor. What was he supposed to do? But something in her gaze pulled him forward. Slowly he stepped closer. The soldiers shouted, the scientists warned, but Tom knelt down, gently taking her hand. The room went silent. Her lips parted, no words came, but a breath escaped, soft and trembling. And in that moment everyone understood. The first connection of a reborn alien was not with leaders or scholars, but with a simple human janitor. The galaxy would remember that moment, though no one yet knew it. The awakening bond, the days after her awakening, were full of tension. The alien girl remained in the chamber, watched by guards and scientists. Yet she no longer lay still. She sat upright, eyes wandering the room. Curious and silent, she did not react to the commander's questions. She did not flinch when the scientists waved tools in front of her eyes. She did not move when soldiers shouted commands in different languages. But when Tom entered with his cleaning cart, her gaze softened. It became a pattern, every shift. When Tom pushed his cart across the floor, her glowing eyes followed him. She tilted her head at the sound of the mop's swish, at the squeak of wheels against steel. To the soldiers, it meant nothing. To the scientists, it was an inconvenience, but to Tom, it felt like recognition. He tried not to notice at first. He was just a janitor, a shadow in the halls. He cleaned up broken glass after the experiments. He polished the railings. He carried away discarded notes. Yet each time her eyes found his, he felt the weight of her silence. One night after most of the crew had gone, Tom lingered outside the chamber. He was tired, leaning on his mop handle, when he saw her move closer to the glass. Her hand pressed against it, faint light spreading where her skin touched. Tom hesitated, then slowly pressed his palm against the same spot on his side of the glass. The glow brightened, wrapping around his hand. No alarms triggered, no warnings blared, only a soft hum, like the station itself had sighed in relief. The next morning, The scientists discovered strange symbols drawn in condensation on the inside of the chamber glass, spiral patterns, lines that curved like maps, points that glowed faintly before fading. They recorded everything, but the girl refused to draw them again for them. When Tom came near, she lifted her finger and traced more shapes on the fogged glass. He frowned, trying to understand. He copied the shapes on a notepad he carried for cleaning lists. Spirals, stars, arrows pointing outward. He had no idea what they meant, but the girl smiled for the first time when he copied them. Word spread quickly through the station. The alien girl responded only to the janitor. Soldiers whispered in the mess hall, mocking the idea, calling it foolish. Some said Tom must have been exposed to alien energy, that she had imprinted on him like a child on its caretaker. Others grew jealous. Officers asked him questions, demanding to know what she told him. Tom only shook his head. She had not spoken, only drawn, only looked at him with those glowing eyes. Soon, higher authorities from Earth sent messages to the commander. Keep the girl under strict watch, report her every move, and above all, do not let her bond with a single untrained man. But it was too late. That bond had already formed one evening. Tom found her sitting cross-legged in her chamber, tracing patterns in the dust left on the floor by the soldiers' boots. He watched quietly, then took his mop, dipped it in water, and drew the same spiral across the clean floor outside her glass wall. Her eyes widened, and she pressed her glowing hand against the same shape from her side. For the first time, sound came from her lips. Not words, but a soft tone rising and falling like music. The scientists rushed to record it, calling it alien speech, but she never sang for them again. If only when Tom was near, the commander grew frustrated, demanding Tom stay away from the chamber. But every time they forced distance, the girl grew restless, her glowing skin dimming, her breathing shallow. When Tom returned, she calmed, her glow returning. The truth became undeniable. Her survival, her will to live, was tied to him. In secret, Tom began to keep sketches of the patterns she drew. Now they looked like maps, but not of any human sector he had seen. One night, while studying the drawings alone, he realized the spirals were not just maps. They looked like warnings, arrows pointing to the edge of known space. When he glanced back at the chamber, he saw her watching him through the glass. Her glowing eyes filled with urgency. She pressed her palm again, this time harder, her tone rising, sharper, almost pleading. For the first time, Tom felt it clearly. She was trying to tell him something important, something dangerous, and he understood a chilling truth. She wasn't only a survivor of the past, she was a messenger of what was coming next. The warning signs. The station's corridors grew heavier with whispers each passing day. Soldiers, officers, even engineers began to notice the strange bond between the alien girl and the janitor. To the commanders, it was an embarrassment. To the scientists, it was a puzzle, but to Tom, it was becoming a weight he could no longer ignore. Every time she traced her glowing spirals, every time she sang her strange tones, he felt the same pressure in his chest. A warning, urgent and sharp, but no one listened. "You're a cleaner, not a translator," one officer spat when Tom tried to explain the drawings looked like maps. Leave the analysis to experts, Tom wanted to, yet he could not forget the fear he had seen in her glowing eyes when she pressed her palm harder than ever before against the glass. The next night she drew something new. Not spirals, not stars, but jagged lines, arrows slashing inward. Surrounding a circle, when Tom copied it on his notepad, her tone deepened into a low hum that vibrated through the chamber walls. He didn't need science to understand. Something was closing in. 2 weeks later, the sensors picked up faint signals at the edge of the system. Unidentified ships drifting just outside human territory. The commander dismissed them as scavengers. Pirates, perhaps? But Tom felt his chest tighten the moment he saw the jagged lines drawn again in fresh condensation on the chamber glass. He tried to tell them, tried to show the patterns matched the signals' positions, but the scientists laughed at the idea of a janitor solving what they could not. Yet the alien girl clung to the glass, eyes fixed on him, tones rising higher every time he spoke the truth aloud. "She's scared," Tom whispered during a late-night shift. "She knows them." The girl's glowing hand trembled against the glass as if agreeing. Rumors spread fast. Some of the younger soldiers began to believe Tom, whispering that the girl was warning humanity of an invasion. Others mocked him, calling it superstition, saying the janitor wanted to play hero. But the signs could not be ignored for long. The unknown signals grew stronger. More ships appeared at the edge, and strange distortions flickered in the outer skies. Then one evening, the alarm screamed through the halls. "Unidentified fleet detected," the station's system blared. Approaching fast, panic spread across Outpost 9. Soldiers rushing to armories. Scientists scrambling to protect their research. And in the center of it all, the alien girl pounded her palm against the glass, her glow flaring brighter than ever, her tones breaking into sharp cries that echoed through the metal walls. She was not warning anymore, she was begging them to listen. The commander ordered her restrained, believing she was somehow connected to the ships. Guards entered the chamber with shock rods, moving carefully toward her. But the moment they stepped in, her glow dimmed, her breathing grew shallow, her tones turned into a low broken hum. Tom couldn't hold back any longer. He shoved past the guards. Ignoring their shouts, he dropped his mop, raised his hands slowly, and knelt before her. "Tell me," he whispered, voice trembling. "What are you trying to say?" Her glowing hand reached out, pressing against his chest this time, right above his heart. Visions flooded his mind. Flashes of burning stars, fleets of black ships tearing through planets, her own people falling. Their voices silenced, their bodies turned to ash. Tom gasped, staggering back. He saw her eyes wide and pleading, and for the first time, he understood clearly. Her people had been hunted, erased, and now the hunters were here, drawn by the signal of her survival. Tom tried again to explain to the commanders, to warn them the alien girl's message was true, but pride blinded them. "Nonsense," the commander growled. "Our fleets will handle scavengers. No alien girl speaks through a janitor." Yet the alien fleet drew closer, their signals no longer faint but clear, their ships cutting through the dark like blades. Tom knew the truth. Humanity was standing at the edge of a storm, and the only one who truly understood it was locked inside a glass chamber reaching for him. The janitor who no one listened to was the only one she trusted. And soon, the galaxy would learn whether that trust was enough to save them all. But the storm arrives, the night sky beyond the station burned with lights. The unknown ships pierced the darkness, forming a wall at the edge of human space. Sirens wailed, red lights flashed across the halls, and soldiers ran with weapons clutched tight. The commander shouted orders, but fear spread faster than discipline. "Battle stations." The commander roared, but his voice shook. Inside her glass chamber, the alien girl trembled. Her glow flickered like a dying flame. She pressed both hands against the barrier, her tones rising sharp and desperate. Tom was there again, forced back by guards but unwilling to leave. He saw her eyes, those glowing eyes filled with fear and determination, and he knew she was not calling to scientists or soldiers. She was calling only to him. The commander barked, "Restrain her. She is distracting the crew." But Tom's heart pounded louder than the man's voice. The first strike came without warning. A beam of light from the alien fleet slammed into the station's outer shields, shaking the corridors. Pipes burst, alarms screamed louder. The floor itself trembled like a drum. Panic broke loose. Guards stumbled, scientists shouted, engineers cursed at failing systems, and in that chaos, the glass around the alien girl cracked, not from the blast outside, but from within. Her glow surged, spreading like fire across the chamber walls, and the glass fractured into shards, spilling bright light into the corridor. Soldiers raised their weapons, aiming at her, fear twisting their faces. But before they could fire, Tom stepped in front of her. "Stop!" he shouted, surprising even himself. "She's not the enemy, she's the only one who knows how to fight them." The soldiers hesitated, torn between the commander's orders and the janitor's desperate plea. Behind them, another blast rocked the station, nearly knocking them off their feet in that split second. The alien girl reached forward and grabbed Tom's hand. Her touch burned, not with pain, but with energy. Visions filled his mind again, this time clearer, sharper. He saw hidden chambers deep within the station, places even the commanders had forgotten, rooms filled with alien machines buried long ago, waiting to be awakened. She tugged his hand, urging him to follow. Without hesitation, Tom ran with her, dragging his mop cart behind him until it clattered uselessly against the wall. The girl's glow lit their path, guiding them through smoke and shaking corridors. Soldiers shouted behind them, but none dared to shoot while the station burned around them. They descended into forgotten levels, lower than Tom had ever cleaned. A dust lay thick on the floor, pipes hissed with steam. The lights flickered weakly. The girl pressed her glowing hand against an old metal door, and with a hum, it slid open for the first time in decades. Inside, the chamber was not human, it was alien. Curved walls and floating crystals glowing faintly in the dark. A machine's hummed to life as her presence filled the room. Tom stood frozen, staring at the impossible sight. "What is this place?" he whispered. Breath shaking, the girl turned to him, her eyes glowing brighter, and for the first time her voice formed a clear word in human tongue. "Home," she said, her tone soft yet heavy with sorrow. Tom's chest tightened, but there was no time for awe. And outside, the station shook again, another strike tearing through its shields. The girl moved swiftly, touching the crystals, guiding streams of light into old control panels. Symbols lit up across the walls, alien and unreadable. But the systems responded to her. Tom realized the station had been built on top of something far older, alien defenses buried beneath human metal. She turned to him, pointing at a lever set into the floor. A simple handle covered in dust. He hesitated. "Me?" She nodded, glowing eyes steady. His hand trembled, but he stepped forward, wrapped his fingers around the cold metal, and pulled. The chamber roared to life outside. Hidden cannons unfolded from the station's outer hull, alien weapons humans never knew they possessed. Beams of light far brighter than the attackers sliced across the dark, tearing enemy ships apart in seconds. Explosions lit the sky, shaking even the attackers, who had not expected resistance this strong. The defenders on the station gasped as their failing shields suddenly turned into blazing weapons, fighting back with impossible power. In the hidden chamber, Tom collapsed to his knees, panting, while the alien girl stood tall, her glow steady, her hand still holding his. For the first time since her rebirth, her trembling stopped. She was no longer just a survivor. She was a warrior again. And Tom, the janitor no one listened to, had become the one to help her unleash it. But as the alien fleet reeled from the counterattack, more signals appeared on the scanners, stronger, larger, spreading like a dark tide across the stars. The first wave had only been a test. The real storm was still coming. Humanity's stand, the first alien fleet, had been shattered by the ancient weapons hidden beneath the station. Wreckage burned across the skies, drifting like falling stars. But the victory was only a moment of breath. New signals crowded the scanners, larger fleets, darker shapes moving in waves toward the system. The real army was arriving. Panic rose again across Outpost 9. The commander shouted orders, but even his voice broke with fear. Soldiers whispered about abandoning the station. Scientists argued about destroying the alien girl before the attackers could reclaim her. Tom stood in the hidden chamber, chest still heaving from pulling the ancient lever. He looked at the glowing girl beside him. Her hand still holding his, she was calm now, but her eyes burned with urgency. "What do we do?" he whispered. She turned, pointing at the alien machines now awake around them. Symbols flashed across the walls, streams of light flowing like rivers across the controls. Tom didn't understand the language, but he understood her gaze. She needed him to trust her. Soldiers barged into the chamber, weapons raised. "Step away from it." "Janitor," the commander barked. "You have no idea what you're touching." Tom clenched his fists, fear clawing his chest, but before he could speak, the girl stepped forward, placing herself between the soldiers and Tom. Her glow flared bright, and the soldiers stumbled back as their rifles sparked. "Useless." The commander's face twisted with rage, but also fear. "She's controlling our systems," he shouted. "She'll kill us all." Tom shook his head, his voice firm for the first time in his life. "No. She's saving us." Silence fell, broken only by the distant thrum of enemy ships closing in. The commander hesitated, but another blast rocked the station, nearly throwing them to the ground, and in that moment, hesitation gave way to desperation. He pointed his weapon at Tom instead, but before the trigger could be pulled, the girl raised her hand and the rifle crumbled into dust. Her eyes glowed brighter, her voice rising in that strange alien tone that shook the walls like thunder. The soldiers froze, awe and fear locking their bodies still. Tom stepped forward, standing beside her, and for the first time the two of them looked not weak, not small, but unshakable. Together they turned to the controls. The girl guided his hands, showing him levers and switches, while she touched the glowing crystals. The station itself changed. Panels slid open across the hull, hidden structures rising like claws, cannons glowing with alien light. The second wave of attackers surged forward, hundreds of ships filling the stars. But Outpost 9 was no longer a human station. It had become a fortress of two species combined. The alien girl raised both hands, light pouring from her body into the machines. Tom pulled another lever, his hands steady now. No longer just a janitor, but something more, the station roared. Beams of light lanced outward, faster, sharper, tearing through the first rows of enemy ships. Explosions painted the darkness, shockwaves scattering attackers who had believed themselves unstoppable. The fleets pressed harder, surrounding the station, firing beams that cracked against the shields. But each time, the alien girl channeled more of her strength, and Tom answered her with trust, activating the defenses she showed him. Side by side, they turned the tide. Hours passed in fire and thunder. The station shook but did not fall. The invaders realized too late that their prey had become a predator. At last, the remaining ships broke formation and fled into the dark. Cheers erupted across the human comms, soldiers shouting with relief, engineers crying at the miracle of survival. In the hidden chamber, Tom collapsed against the wall, his hands raw from pulling levers, his body trembling. The alien girl knelt beside him, her glow softer now, gentle instead of fierce. She touched his chest just above his heart, and for the first time she whispered a human word. Friend. The word was small, fragile, yet it carried more power than all the weapons they had unleashed. Tom smiled weakly, tears in his eyes. Yeah, he whispered to friend days later. The galaxy would speak of the Battle of Outpost 9. Politicians would claim credit, commanders would call it strategy, scientists would call it discovery. But those who were there knew the truth. An alien girl rebuilt from a single hand had stood with a simple janitor, and together they had turned fear into strength. Humanity learned that greatness does not always come from the highest ranks or the sharpest minds. Sometimes it comes from the quiet soul who dares to listen, and the stranger who dares to trust, and in that bond forged in fire and fear, a new chapter of history began.